players that they're going with, as well as the fact that they were out in pretty early fashion in the playoffs of the LCK Cup. First off, though, we are going to see Gumayusi's Varus banned away. It feels like a Gumayusi ban and just a very popular ban at the moment.
Yeah, strong meta ban, not always first picked with some of the other really strong champions you can B1 in this meta. The Gwen, the Jace, then the Fury, but it feels like a strong blue side ban, or you don't want to give that over in trade. Vi taken away as well, so we could see potentially Sponge looking for that first pick Naafiri if it is left available. You and I, we mentioned it earlier in the previous series, we're not super high on it ourselves at the moment. Looks like T1 feeling somewhat similarly. Well, they'll ban the Sejuani, which has been Sponge's favorite throughout his career, so I think there's a little bit of flavor of that in this ban as well.
We saw the graphic come up as well at the very beginning, and it was Rich on his Gwen and Sponge on his Sejuani. So they've done their homework, and they've banned both of those. Or at least they had our points of the match leaked to them early. So that's going to give them all the tips that they needed.
Well, here's the choice. You know, do they go for that Naafiri ban, or will they just simply leave it up and look for something stronger and they value higher? The Skarner, of course, another consideration.
Callie,
taken away.
That's a big pick for you, Cal. You can understand the ban, but it does mean that Naafiri is up and available. I just think it might be a trap. It is only one game thus far.
You could play Skarner, which feels pretty good into the Fury as well.
Yeah, wouldn't mind it. And also, you could just pick anything else and just allow that Skarner option to be there for Sponge if he would like it. I mean, Maokai's there as well. There's plenty that you can do to sort of nullify the matchup if you'd like. Jace is up and available for Rich, another huge one there as they wear out the clock, and it is Naafiri that's locked in, so they're not going to risk giving that one over to Ona, but still, it feels like a huge risk.
T1 did opt into leaving this up. They must feel that they have a good enough answer, or they simply think the pick against coordinated play isn't as strong as others believe. And in return, they'll get Faker's most iconic pick. He's got the Faker smile.
Yeah, there's a smirk. Yeah, that is a smirk right there.
He's got his hand on his chin as if he was pensive, but I don't think there was a second thought he ever gave to this one. So. Now, the Jace into the Rumble, we talked about it earlier, but can be quite strong early. You can dominate that lane. Naafiri relies a lot on Prio to make a lot of rotations happen and to look for aggressive plays early. So the Jace feels good here. We have seen Aurora win lane into Azir. Now it is UCal versus Faker. You know, it's not 2018, but it is a very peaking UCal right now against a Faker whose form is currently unknown. But I do like this first rotation here for DRX. We were a little bit on the fence about Naafiri, but they've got two solo laners to help set it up.
Yeah, I don't mind this as far as a Naafiri angle, though, for DRX. They have a lot of shove. They can actually control a lot of this top side of the map. With Rich and UCal in decent form at the moment, there's an opportunity for Sponge to make something happen. That being said, I mean, this T1 draft so far is just... They are at home with their slippers on, you know, it's so comfortable. PJs, you know, the real soft ones. Oh, everything is just feeling it.
I mean, Owner's Xin Zhao in LCK Cup was insane.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, for me, next to Peanut, by far the second best jungler that we had throughout the tournament. Just way more consistent than Canyon was, for sure, even though Canyon made the finals. Kai'Sa gets banned against Teddy here. Both of these AD carries, you know, have played a decent amount of Kai'Sa throughout their career. Guma's been criticized for it quite a bit. Yeah. Now we see the ban of the Misfortune. We'll see if it's going to be a support ban or just the Ashe, which is the last mainstay relevant AD carry here. We've gone kind of deep down the pool here. See what Guma wants to go for in his first game back.
Yeah, we are in the weeds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Does have, you know, his Caitlyn as an option, although nerfed on this patch. I think Corki is probably the next as far as going down the tier list is concerned, unless I've missed something.
We could go for an old Guma carry a classic and do a Senna lane or something like that. There's a lot of options. Jhin is certainly one that people like you have raised eyebrows at.
I don't mind it with the amount of DPS that you get from an Azir. I think it's totally fine to bring in something that's a little bit more utility. So this Jhin angle is not the worst. And it's Gumayusi. He has a Jhin card.
And when also so many other AD carries that can perform well into Jhin are removed, it feels like it's a lot safer to lock this one in. I'm really curious to see what Tay's going to bring. That Corki is going to be the option here. very strong into outside of this Xinjiao, a very squishy lineup here for T1, especially in the mid game. When he can hit that 2-item spike, he is going to be incredibly powerful. They'll take the Rel as well, interestingly, which will nerf Misfortune for the rest of this series, as she will not be able to have that combo moving forward.
See what Keria is going to pick up. Can go towards, you know, just win lane, win game if they'd like to pick up a ranged support, but instead it's going to be the Alistar, something that he's had phenomenal success on, but isn't going to give them a whole lot of laning power in the very early game.
Yeah, it's a trade-off of how strong Alistar is into Rel and some of the Rel engages and how you can just straight up deny. You can even deny Nefiri engages if played correctly really well with this pick. But yeah, the trade-off is the laning phase, especially into a Corki, is going to be very tricky to pilot. And when you already have two potentially winning lanes in top lane and mid lane for DRX here, nameplate's off here. I feel like this draft for DRX really does feel quite strong. T1 though, nameplates are on. It's Faker's Azir, it's Doran on the Rumble. Owner's playing his best pick of the year so far in this Xinjiao. And they are the stronger, more well-coordinated team. We have to imagine that's the expectation going to their very first LCK 2025 game. The Jhin, I think with the front line they have and the Azir disengage and all the damage you mentioned that Azir is going to bring to the table, I think does fit the bill for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of slow and steady wins the race here for T1. I think not going too heavy on the gas in your first game back as well is really intelligent. Oftentimes you take a lot of pressure off by just giving yourself scaling outs so you aren't forced to make the big plays. As we can see here though, there is definitely a lot of gusto in this DRX lineup as far as the champions are concerned. If they're going forward, things are looking good, but if they get stopped, if they get stifled, I mean, T1 will slowly but surely whittle you down and destroy you. They've done it in the past. We'll see whether they can do it again. All right, we are on the T1 side of LoL Park, so obviously the fan chants were the same volume, weren't they, Wolf? I just, it's a bit confusing because of proximity. For me.
Strangely enough, when I look over at the DRX side, it looks very red as well.
Huh.
Just because there's a lot
No,
of
that's the CGV cups.
Ah, that was it. Okay.
That's what you can see. Otherwise,
they wear the cups now, yeah.
Yeah.
Cups have zippers and some sponsor logos.
Yeah, and they say T1 on them. It's really weird. Okay. DRX have managed to get some vision down. You can see it's kind of traded. Not too much really deep vision or anything like that because no one going for any sort of big early invades. Just a 5-point defense system here from T1 as Faker gets the first CS of the game. Owner as well was the one that spotted it out and pinged it, so he's got a bit of extra money. Look at that, 10 gold. Yeah, T1 are infinitely ahead right now.
True. Let's see how Keria navigates the early laning phase here on this Alistar. Very experienced player. Jin's base damage is good, but the shred of the Corki is going to be a problem if they do end up getting caught and held under a Gatling gun. Yep, they will not enjoy it.
Do you feel like Teddy and Andal will have a bit of power in this game, in this lane?
Yes.
Just with the fact that Gumayushi's going to spend what feels like 50% of the time reloading.
Electrocute is a rune.
Yeah, Yukal has demonstrated that.
It's not an ultimate ability or anything like that, but it's very strong. It has been buffed repeatedly. And Aurora can win out those trades early as level 2 for Keria.
Yeah, gets a pulverize here as Deadly Flourish out, and Andal is in trouble. Lit on fire here, holds the flash until the last second. But yeah, he's not laning too much anymore. We'll see how Teddy's going to be able to survive this.
Does have his potion, which will help him.
Yeah, it's pretty good at this stage of the game when you don't have very much health, so.
It'll help him a little bit. He opts to use it, but Guma got his 4th shot in as well, so a lot of damage there. Flash down as well for Andal is pretty big. Limits some of his power coming out of this. Ability to potentially get on top of Guma and punish him, so playing pretty good about that.
Yep. Having a look in at Rich versus Doran. This is a matchup, like, I mean, this is a champion that Rich was known for even when he first debuted, right? When his champion pool was certainly held into question quite a lot, which makes sense when you're moving over from another game. And without too many things that you've put that much mastery into. He was already good at it at that time. As now Yukal closing the gap yet again. Another Electrocute proc. He only needs to hit another ability and a half, and he will be able to take down Faker, and in the end is able to deny a cannon.
Yeah, the timing of this as well, when Faker's trying to get that cannon, the wave is far away from him, can't do anything, and has to back and teleport so early, while UCAL is still extremely healthy, as well as mana healthy, means that UCAL could potentially look to do this again. Now, here comes Owner and Keria.
I think UCAL may need to use some abilities. He flashes, Sponge is here, but UCAL is really dead. That is going to be first blood going over to Owner. And just a little greedy is good old UCAL, even using the flash.
You've been in this league for so long. You know, you took a little break, but the Faker taunt got you really...
It's not even a Faker taunt, it's the minion taunt.
Yeah, he went up aggressively, traded, and then pushed super hard while Faker was returning to lane and got caught by 2 gankers, even though Sponge was nearby, wasn't able to assist. Loses his life and his flash, whereas Faker still holds on to his. So the tables have definitely turned in this mid lane after this play. As you can see, UCAL goes invis, tries to use the weirding device space to get back to spawn.
Followed him with the flash. Yeah. Keria pretty good at this game, isn't he?
He is quite solid. Puts in the flash cooldown timer into the chat.
Heck yeah. And that also is his own flash cooldown timer, although he can ping that at any time. But it is cool to also give that information when maybe they just didn't want to press tab. Never mind. Faker now clearing out this wave. UCAL will be able to pick that one up pretty comfortably. I don't feel like it's end of the world for the mid lane, just given the fact that Faker wasn't able to get an assist or really anything off the back end of this. UCAL pulling the wave himself here, does manage to lock down that cannon. I was nervous for a second, but no -1s here. As Andal's moving over, UCAL not quite finding it there onto Faker, but he does use the shifting sands in order to get himself out of the way.
Keria playing the map really well. Kuma swapping to top, not interacting with the Corki too much, finds himself at a pretty nice advantage. They got the flash out of Andil earlier. Keria used his incredibly well in that gank, obviously. And it's just T1's early map prowess.
Well,
speaking of,
standing on vision, does manage to crash down, gets himself away, and also eats an ignite. Keria pretty hyphy on that one, really wanting to press his ignite button as often as possible.
As UCAL wants to do something here, but I don't think it's going to happen, as Faker doesn't have ult. He's very far away from it, but still is extremely healthy.
He is keeping the weirding on cooldown as often as possible. UCAL really making sure he's putting this Aurora through her paces as much as he can. Doran has got the equalizer though, right as these grubs are spawning, but he's in the bottom lane without teleport, so never mind. That's not going to really pay too much of a difference here, as Owner now in trouble. On the level 5, as Sponge goes untargetable, but Owner's very targetable. It's UCAL that grabs that kill here as Keria has to get out of there, and these grubs belong to DRX.
Yeah, if Owner had ult, the situation looks totally different, but at level 5, that's simply not available, and he is just completely blasted to death. And that is a kill on the board here for DRX, but as you mentioned, arguably more importantly, Grubs going over as well. Denying Grubs from an Azir always feels really good, and the Jace side lane power is definitely a thing that we'll have to talk about later on in this game.
Yeah.
Owner just goes in onto Andil here without really any support, and it's a Jace here. It was not the most ideal situation for him there. Perhaps just saw blood in the water. As Teddy. Ooh.
The curtains have been called. The final bullet was not enough to kill him, but did certainly put the fear of God in him. Andil will get knocked up, but does Shattering Strike Owner here as well. Andil just really wants to make sure this Brambleback goes over to its rightful jungler, and that looks to be something that he will achieve. So nicely done there, Andil. Faker hitting level 7 here in the mid lane, and just slowly but surely farming up towards that Azir critical mass.
They're really trying to play through the fact that Faker has a lot of control right now. Owner has level 6. And they're getting a lot of value out of this. Doran coming over as well.
Yep, Doran getting in amongst it.
And there's just no cross map here. It's just a losing battle. DRX are trying to contest, but are finding nothing. And T1 just get a lot of pressure done. Take the Raptors, come over here, pull this red buff back. And they don't see Teddy right now, but they can reasonably assume he's heading back towards the bottom lane. And will be seen there in just a moment. And they just get away with this. You can see a rotation over for Sponge, but there's nothing really to grab. They'll only get the Raptors in return.
Yeah, so he will be able to grab the enemy Raptors, so there's at least an even trade there.
He's on a ward, so Faker knows that he's there. Owner can come back up and protect, so Faker's not in any danger either.
Yep, red buff is spawning right now, so Owner is making a beeline over there. And now the equalizer is coming down. Andil gets out of the way of it. Him and Teddy running away from one Rumble is a little bit of a worry, but there was an Alistair waiting in the wings. So I think right to play it safe.
Feels really good if you are the solo top laner into the bottom duo and you're winning out.
Oh, Carrier going for it once again here as Yukal trying to use his wall here and does manage to do so in the end. Even Carrier taking a lot of damage in trade. But putting that ult on cooldown, big deal here.
And Yukal and Faker both getting their teleports back online momentarily. Yukal just got his flashback as well. Didn't have it for that exchange, but didn't need it because he could utilize his ultimate. But yeah, getting the ult cooldown feels really nice. Not going to be useful for the next big fight, which could have potentially been over this dragon. We haven't had the dragon taken by either side just yet, but with the, Yukal losing his ult, Faker having some prio here, it's definitely looking T1 favored at the moment for that first objective, or the first major objective.
Yep, we need to see DRX sort of make something happen. Yukal, that was very satisfying, but now the Drake has been started.
It's just so tough without the Aurora ult to make a fight happen here.
Yeah. Doran now Sponge throwing some daggers around. Doran was on the mine because he's in the top lane without Equalizer available. So won't be able to affect this fight here as Yukal, once again, softening up carry. He's only level 4 as that's a steal from Sponge. And Ona now trying to get out of there, but I don't know whether he's going to be able to. They just close the gap on that Crescent Guard as Faker looks for the Emperor's Divide. He gets it. Sponge goes on targetable, flashes from Carrier, and Carrier will be taken down. It's Andal who gets the kill, but now he's right on top of this teleport. The curtains, they've been called, doesn't land onto Sponge for the last bullet, and it's highway robbery!
And Doran TP's in for nothing! And Teddy's up here going, thanks for the freebie! Is Sponge the best Nefiri in the LCK?
Maybe.
I mean, that was a fantastic steal from him, and he played the team fight out so incredibly well, too. Gets out, nobody dies. As look at Sponge here, he's on vision, comes in here, drops the first Q, Owner not able to secure the smite, and then ults Owner. And as the turn comes through, they're looking for Owner. He's got Crescent Guard up. Faker hits the Nefiri, but then Sponge just presses W, walks out. Carrier goes in for the play, but there's too many people to block the Jhin damage, so Sponge gets out, and then the ult is blocked again here, so Guma just unable to get anything, and Doran TP's in for nothing. And Sponge, man, he is the most successful Robert the Bandit of this
100%. Sponge, absolutely fantastically played, but Carrier almost killed, like, if Sponge hadn't have flashed that headbutt pole, that would have been like one of the classic Carrier God plays, you know? Gets the 3-man knock-up, then all of the AoE is layered. Doran might actually get there in time. Oh, it's a bit of an unfortunate situation. 4 grubs now for DRX as well.
Yeah, they get Dragon, they're looking for more.
Well, Carrier only level 5 here, and Sponge still trying to keep it interesting, but T1 should be able to get 2 of them. Good untargetable there as Andal. He's got other things on his mind. Shattering Strike comes down as Doran uses a very defensive ultimate. Yukal still doing a lot of damage, though, as we can see, as Sponge is just bouncing around the rift. Another teleport to come in, this time from Faker. And Rich has followed suit, looking for an angle here as this scuffle will continue. Faker bleeding for now, but it's Andal that's the target, and he will be taken down immediately. It's traded, though, as Owner. That's a phenomenal ult, but I think he's still dead. The bleed is ticking, and he's still going to be taken out. That is a Yukal with a double. And this Aurora is going to be mega fed this game.
I remember, too, at the beginning of the fight, Yukal had an opportunity to ult to kill Doran and decided not to use it because he knew there was higher value.
Yukal.
What a sick play there from Yukal as well.
Is this 2018 LCK Summer Champion Yukal?
It seems like it. And, I mean, with how well Sponge is playing this early game, too, DRX looking fantastic. Another plate is going to go over, but yeah, Yukal holds his ult until the fight over the grubs, and Faker has committed his way in. We have all the TPs coming through. Rich shows up, and then he drops the TP. He could have ulted Doran here. He just lets him go. He's like, just gonna let him go. I'm gonna hold my ult. I'm gonna use it for the fight because I want this 5v5. Rich is calling, he's coming in. Faker shows up as well. The Faker's in a really awkward spot here, and Sponge, because he has such long engage range, can actually get on top of Owner from so far away, and there's just no getting out here for T1. A clean fight from DRX.
Yeah. Sponge starting to pick up some of these resets in these fights as well. You can see 0-0-3 now does have his Eclipse completed. And the Nefiri doing what it says on the tin, or what we expected the tin to say.
That's what I was told was on the tin.
Yeah. The tins have been a little bit weird. Maybe it's just baked beans sometimes. As now Andal finds himself a cow. Carrier still level 5. And Andal has that Magnet Storm available. They're not going to be using it right now, but this turret looking worse for wear, as Rich will be able to clear out this minion wave very comfortably. Doran tries his best to threaten.
I like that DRX decide not to hard force there on the top side, even though the turret's super low. They don't know where Guma is, and they just decide to back away.
I mean, feats of strength are basically theirs, so I don't think they really need to worry about it too much.
Yeah. I mean, they can also just continue to push this as T1 reset.
-1 in the chat. Oh, Yukal's going to basically be behind Faker.
Look at Yukal's gold lead.
Yeah.
At even CS, so 3 kills now, first brick.
And full local gold for first brick. There it goes.
Yeah.
Now 1.5.
This is wild, what we are watching right now.
I mean, it is just DRX looking way better.
Yeah, they look like a really good team.
Yeah, I love this. And we were having this conversation, right? Like, which team in the LCK is actually the struggling team? We saw even B&K taking a game off DK yesterday. Yeah, it was, I mean, there's an asterisk or two there because DK were playing a little bit weird. I think there are a few teams like Bro is struggling in the LCK at the moment, but I do feel like the level of competition hasn't been this high in the LCK for a really long time.
Certainly.
Oftentimes there's like a clear split between like the top 4, top 5, and the rest of the pack.
I mean, B&K almost took a game off Gen G in LCK Cup. You
right?
know? It feels like anyone can beat anyone on their best day, as Doran should be fine here, but good pressure from Sponge as the Dragon has spawned, and DRX are faster grouped here on the bottom side, but they don't have control.
Well, Sponge going to get poked out here. We have to remember T1 do have scaling on their side, so DRX need to keep up the pace. And yes, they're winning now, but it's only by 1.2, so
small victories.
We're singing their praises while we can. Well, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and we'll see if that continues to be singable. For the moment, though, T1 in a really nice position. Carrier blocking the entry here.
I've seen this one before. Sponge looking for another heist angle. He is in the pit. Owner is going to spot him out. These daggers are not connecting. Rich on that flank angle, but he's on that ward. And headbutt out. No Magnet Storm for you, Andal. Still Carrier taking a lot of damage. That is going to be the Drake going over to Owner. Somehow that Shock Blast is actually going to miss. That's going to force Rich to flash away. Some decent damage here from the Between Worlds, but the answering Deadly Flourish is too good. And there is the shutdown. Straight over to the GOAT as T1. They'll take the Drake and a whole bunch more.
That was definitely a Yukal moment. Bit of an ambitious play. Sometimes they work out, and often they end up not working out and backfiring in a big way, and Owner re-engages, and Faker is able to clean up the kill with the flourish you mentioned. No, not Faker's flourish, but of course the flourish helping him clean up that kill. Great play from Carrier here as well. This is why you pick Alistar and Darrell. Just push on Dog, because if that ends up being a big Magnet Storm, maybe they can follow up on that Yukal ults that group instead of ulting here. And I think at this point, the fight is clearly over.
Well, there's an Emperor's Divide. Rich cannot go to the skies because he's been to the skies recently. Yukal is going to come down and see what he can do here as Doran is dead. Faker is under the turret, sets up his own, but I think Yukal will have enough damage to finish this off. It's going to take a bit of time as he flashes as well. Finally, the auto comes in, and that's a double kill for the guy that just died. I think that's pretty good reparations there.
Almost feels like for so much of this year, you could flip a coin on a Yukal play. You don't know how it's going to go, but it's starting to feel like a bit of a weighted coin. He just keeps coming up with victories here as Rich comes over here to try to defend this turret. This is, you know, some LCK Cup Rich action right here. It seems like initially, but he does have a teleporting Yukal coming through, and he lives long enough to where this ends up being a double for Yukal. The Electrocute proc is actually what does Doran in, sadly for him, and then Faker kills the turret, sets up the Sun Disc, but unfortunately there's just not enough time to survive here. Even with Yukal taking that turret aggro, it doesn't do that much damage.
Yeah, getting the bone plating at the right timing there as well for Faker keeps him alive for that one extra auto attack, but the Sun Disc doesn't do enough, so not going to be a huge deal. Malignant's now completed for Yukal, and the Shadow Flame, as I say it. He is so big.
He is ready to side lane into Nazir. I think he's very happy to side lane into a Rumble. And he's a force to be reckoned with in team fights as well. With 6 Dark Steel stacks and augmented Sork shoes with the feats of strength.
Yeah.
He's about as big as an Aurora can be at 17.5 minutes in.
Ooh, Deadly Flourish just barely missing here as Sponge throwing his daggers, both of them into Owner, that bleed. That nerf needs to come in, because it just feels like it does a whole lot. Not going to be able to find that dagger there, though, is Deadly Flourish now onto Teddy. He's going to have to get out of here. Does use the barrier, and Sponge tanking a few of these shots up, and my God. Welcome back, Guma. He's doing a fair bit of damage here on his Jhin. As Rich, with that W in range form, will be able to do a fair bit of work to this turret, but not if Doran turns up, clears out the wave and the Jace at the same time.
Yeah. Gets the ult out of Doran and does a little bit of extra damage with his grubs. Not quite able to take the turret down, but significant damage does occur, and they have a pretty big lead right now. It's been, you know, it's been 1,000 gold. It's dropped down a little bit. It's been back and forth every time DRX wins these exchanges, but T1 have kept it close, and we've been really singing the praises of DRX, and I think that's because expectations coming to this series were, you know, they probably get crushed by T1, right? But so far, they've been making these fights really, really close. They've been winning some of them. UCal's having a fantastic game. They're playing the map well, but is it well enough? Is it a big enough advantage to overcome what is going to be a late game scaling Faker is the question. Right now, he's 1,300 gold ahead individually. UCal, that is to say, well, the rest of his team needs to follow suit as this Naafiri is going to struggle to kill targets later on. She doesn't get super accelerated.
Yeah, I would say so.
And she's behind as well.
Now building towards the Black Cleaver, which will be coming in relatively soon. But Ona does have the Sundered Sky already. Gumayusi now with his rapid fire cannon done. A little bit of a hybrid build here on the Jhin. We'll see what he does decide to build in. Just feels a little bit like he just doesn't quite know which direction he wants to go in. But hitting shots from a long way away is something that's going to work out relatively well. Charge from the Rift Herald trying to come in here, and that is going to successfully happen. It doesn't do too much more than that.
He has been hitting a lot of shots so far. There's secured too many eliminations just yet, but the accuracy has been quite nice on his flourishes and on his curtain call. So that's a good sign for what the rest of these team fights can look like later on when he's got this big front line of the Xin Zhao. He's got the Azir to peel for him and Alistar to peel for him. He's got Zeke's as well online. Looks like Rich is going to finally take this turret down. Well, he doesn't commit to it. They have some river vision. I think he certainly can commit to it.
Yeah, he's pinging, and Andal is going to get headbutt pulled. Will need to get out of here, I think, and does do so. T1 will let him live for the minute. Speaking of letting things live, Rich is going to not let the turret live. We'll take that one down. The rest of T1 a little bit slow in the rotation, won't be able to stop the Jace after he does manage to do that. So just a little bit more money going over to DRX on the back of that play.
Pretty interesting build here from Rich as well with the Shojin first and Swifties with the tier online, so he's going to go for the Brim on a second. Seen this a little bit more recently, but very different from the tank builds of Jace we were watching a lot earlier this year.
Yeah, the Drake going to be taken here by T1. That's going to be their prize after they do push Rich away. So we're one away from Soul Point here for T1, but it's once again a Chemtech Soul. There are a lot of Chemtech Souls.
There were a lot of Dragon scientists that did claim that Chemtech Soul was bugged, and that's why we saw it a ton earlier this year. I assume that's been fixed, but I don't know. I'm starting to question with how many we've had already here in LCK 2025, but perhaps the next patch will bring us some more fire and earth and wind and all of that. It'll get a little bit
more Captain Planet. Yeah. That's what we're requiring here.
UCal, like many mid laners we've had so far in this first week of LCK, is the guy, right? We saw it with Vikla, we've seen it with BDD. He's got the money, he's got the tools to carry. He's already in such a good position. He just needs to win those fights now with the money he has. And I think that if he can win one or two more big fights before T1 really get this Azir fully online, DRX can win this game. But it's going to be on the back of his shoulders, and he's definitely bracing his shoulders right now.
Yeah, it's looking at those shoulders look pretty good. There you go, nicely done. Doran with 2 items now completed. Haven't seen too much Bloodletter's Curse here in the LCK, but is able to complete that one. We'll be able to shred some more of the magic resist, and that'll help Faker out. And so that feels nice.
Faker, who just now got his Nashers as well. So
2 item spikes coordinated between the solo lanes.
Feeling very good about what their next few fights could look like. 2.5 minutes until the Herald, which is where T1 at the moment are mostly grouped. Still a ways away, of course, but trying to put some pressure on that turret to give them a little bit more space up there would be ideal. But T1 also don't want to force any unnecessary fights right now. Even though 2 items online here for the Azir, still a scary position into this super fed Aurora right now.
Yeah.
And the Fury's sitting on 2 items as well, so they'll maybe look for a pick if they're going to look to try to take any further control of that top side.
Yeah, Sponge was actually waiting to see whether Doran was going to move up. Doran doesn't, and so therefore not going to find any joy there. Arakan still up and available. As the captive audiences just littering this mid lane, as we can see, UCal will be able to clear out this wave.
It does feel like Rich has kind of been able to do whatever he wants this game. He did get punished the one time, but it wasn't really a true punish because obviously there was the UCal double that followed it. And he's just been able to sit down here, took the turret out, has been able to free push and free farm. He's 300 gold behind Doran, who's up 2 kills on him, but he is a 2-item Jace now.
Yeah.
And, you know, his poke with the Nefiri to follow up, the Corki to follow up, with the Aurora that's insanely fed. It feels like he just kind of was allowed to push up far in these lanes, and there was no answer.
I think these Nefiri resets should be more possible with a composition like the one DRX has put together. In comparison to what we saw in our previous series from KT, I think that this might be able to work. We'll just have to see right now. Andal, I've seen this one before.
They keep almost killing him.
Yeah, he's going to crash down over that wall again after the Ignite comes in, but this time Owner is going to follow. He presses ult, wind becomes lightning, bullets become attached to Teddy, and Andal's going to walk his way out. So ultimately it is just the same result.
It's a flash taken away from Andal, which is pretty big for a Rel. So that's a trade-up, I would say, for T1, but it's not enough to secure them this topside turret necessarily because they just don't have push up there.
Minute and a half on the Chemtech Drake, but there is also a Baron coming up. This is UCal. Oh, there's another headbutt ball. Carrier really wanted to pick up player of the match today, and I'll give it to him. That's going to be Owner taking down the kill off the back of the cow.
It's just on a ward there, and now they can get whatever they want. They want Herald, they want Otacon, they want this top turret. They're going to start with Otacon, which is a bit of a scary choice.
Flanking. Carrier coming in, looking for it again. As Sponge going untargetable. Rich with some shock blast angles potentially. That equalizer, great spot, but Faker just wipes them off it. Andal trying to stay alive, and he will fail.
Teddy coming up here. Rich has this turret to play through.
Oh, God. Well, can the shock blast actually land? That's the question. The answer is no, because he's going to be dead. Carrier diving in one more time, and the doggo's on the ground. Teddy, another one of these doggos, is going to be in a bit of trouble as Carrier is down to 1 health, but he is still able to walk his way out. The flash comes in from Teddy, and that should still keep him alive. Okay, UCal's flashing forward, does manage to take down the jungler. That might mean that Otacon is going to be okay. Deadly Flourish coming on in here as the 1-2 punch, and it's a double! Teddy, I don't know about that one though. The captive audience goes off, and I think Teddy knew that he was dead. Guma just comes on over and punishes. Andal's back up one more time.
I mean, that guarantees there's no real ability to actually Otacon without a jungler. You know, they had a lot of damage there, but taking out Owner there, taking out Doran really limits your opportunities here. They can't get the turret either. This is super broken up by DRX as they try to come over here and deny. They don't have a lot of vision over the Otacon pits. They kind of have to just face check it, go into this choke point. It's a fantastic equalizer, as you mentioned, to stop the retreats here. And then Rich tries to hold turret here because there's nothing else he can do. Teddy comes up and tries to save him. If UCal is like 10 seconds faster on dying, you know, if he's up, then they can actually win a fight here maybe, but instead Rich just kind of dies. And then Owner over chases. And as we all just saw, unfortunately for him, UCal is still fed. And he's
a bit of a psycho as well.
Yeah, and they kill Doran, which, you know, stops any potential Otacon take, but Teddy does give his life for it, and we reset.
Well, Andal crashing forward, and the curtains, they have been called. Andal, I mean, he's just dead. Sand Soldiers will take him down. Sponge a little bit late on that on-targetability, but it might be enough to get himself out of there.
I mean, the fact that T1 has so much vision control over this river right now means that DRX feel compelled to kind of keep trickling in and checking and trying to find some information. There's so many objectives to take.
Oh, the Baron.
Oh, it's a T1 Baron. It's 27 minutes in, but it feels a little bit early.
Well, Guma is trying to follow up on the engage there from Carrier as Teddy gets over this wall, I believe unbeknownst, as he's now spotted.
UCal is still big.
Oh, okay. Carrier is going to try and get in there. Sponge going untargetable. Emperor's Divide is going to throw UCal in. He pops on over as Carrier likely to go down, but I think that's a decent trade. They've taken down the jungler as well. Not sure what Teddy was doing. And now Owner is going to be able to transition this into a Baron. Somehow it worked. I have no idea how that all sort of worked into itself, but it's, I mean, T1, I guess, calculated.
I mean, there's just so many objectives to take. There was not a lot of vision for DRX, but I think they really liked that game, Lemmings. Do you remember that game where, you know, they kind of walked forward? They did a little bit of that because without vision, without a control over these areas, they keep kind of coming forward here with no real setup, with no numbers advantage. But look at the map. look at where Corki is. Teddy's nowhere near this. Rich is nowhere near this. They know T1 are likely all in the area, and then they give him another kill. Coming into here, Keria has ult, so ulting him isn't necessarily a good idea here. Sponge can, of course, press W to get away, but Faker finds the angle, and Yukal almost gets the kill, sure. Then Teddy just dives in and to kill a support, and then also dies, and then Baron and Otacon go over. DRX lost control and then doubled and tripled down on trying to fight for it back. And so T1 get the objectives, but also get multiple kills worth of gold. And what was a 1,000 gold lead for T1 is now a 5,000 gold lead.
Yeah, I think they might also be getting another one, as that was really cute from Rich. Nice flash, avoids the headbutt pole, but still, T1 with all of the control of this map that they would like. Owner going to be able to move on over here and look to take down the red buff, and he will be able to successfully do that as well. Deadly Flourish avoided by Sponge, but man.
I mean, T1 are just the kings of objectives. They're so good at setting up on them, playing around vision, looking for turns. DRX fell right into their trap, and what looked like a fairly risky Baron really wasn't with the control they had, and I mean, I don't know if they might just win the game off this.
Well, Owner once again going in, gets the knock up, and down goes the doggo. The curtains have been called, and it may just be curtains on this game. Faker picking up a kill to start this one off. Keria tanking as much as he would like. Remember, they have the withdraws at the same time, as Guma not quite able to land that one, but he flashes forward, and that should finish off the kill onto Rich. Doran realizing that a whole bunch of his buddies are no longer here. Owner not going to actually get recalled because he did have a GA. He's got 3 items. This Xin Zhao is so incredibly large. They take the inner turret, and they're going to break open the base.
Yeah, Doran's just looking to grab an inhibitor on his way out here. Ando will be the first to respawn, and he's not going to be the one to say anything about it. Look at the angle here Owner has. Faker is able to follow up so easily, even though the Fury dodges the initial CC. Faker has the follow-up ult, and that is a dead dog.
Oh, man.
And I guess all dogs go to heaven, but T1 is looking to send them there again. I mean, look, with the withdraws that they have, there's like no loss here. There's no reason not to go in. And that they did. Now they're almost 10,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, this is all of a sudden an extraordinary blowout. And it all happened off the back end of that Otacon Baron play. T1 just controlling the map so well. And Faker now looking for an opportunity onto Yukal. Deadly Flourish connecting somehow. I didn't even see that. Double Pulverize comes through from Keria. The layering of the equalizer is not quite enough, but that doesn't matter. I don't know about the ulti there from Yukal, but I think he was just really scared. And who would blame him, as T1 are bearing down on the base of DRX. It was a decent try. The early game was okay. Yukal kind of got fed, and then it mattered about 0.
T1 are just so good at playing the map, so good at playing around vision. Their coordination is matched by very few teams in the world, as Teddy is trying to hold the wave. He's dead.
I mean, he might actually kill both of them. Doran comes in with a scrap shield, so he's not going to die, as Faker was almost bleeding to death, but he's got some honey fruit here.
And I mean, when you look at how this game really turned on its head, it's just a few mistakes from DRX, and T1 is a team that will punish those incredibly hard and take everything. You know, this was a game that looked playable, looked winnable, and it wasn't about scaling. It wasn't about, like, suddenly, okay, T1 are scaled. It was just DRX making some mistakes, playing too greedy, and then instead of just saying, all right, this is really unfortunate, we lost control of the Baron pit, they just kept going in one by one and giving T1 not only the Baron and the Otacon, but several kills, and the gold lead and the map just balloons away from you after that. Yeah, I mean, Teddy, you know,
he at least has some damage.
That's one. I mean,
the wind becomes lightning, and the Valkyrie actually does a lot.
It was cool. I mean, he played well, you know?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of AD carries just fall over and die there. At least he was able to get one back. It doesn't necessarily matter in this game when you see all the red arrows pointing to T1 with big numbers next to them.
Really big numbers.
I mean, look, Yukal was the smallest number, but remember how big of a lead he had before.
Yeah, the 3.5K, as far as Owner's advantage is concerned, is really telling us some things. This Xin Zhao is a huge problem. Owner is so incredibly good at this champion. It's good to see that what we were saying earlier on is kind of exemplified by the way that he's played this one out so far. And welcome back, Gumayushi. After 3 months of not playing, this guy is looking real good. Has augmented those first couple of items that felt underwhelming with an Infinity Edge and a Lord Dom. So he's doing plenty of damage now. Doran might need to be a little bit careful, I guess, but maybe he also doesn't, as Ona goes in, almost 3 taps. Sponge gets in another couple, and Faker is the one that actually finishes it off in the end. Equalizer just to celebrate, as Carrier looking for a bit of an angle here. He'll be able to get there, and my God, the damage of this Xin Zhao is obscene. And it's actually Gumayusi that finishes off a bunch of these kills. Doran, maybe move a little bit further out so you don't die to the Nexus turrets, but it doesn't matter. It's an ace. That's going to be the Nexus going down, and T1 in their first game looking pretty good.
There were some stumbles early on. There were some big proactive wins for DRX, but when it came to the big fights, when it came to the big objectives, welcome back Guma, welcome back T1 to the Lol Park stage. And what looked like it could have been an interesting DRX upset win was completely flipped.
Oh,
and it became a T1 stomp, the early game that no one will remember with how the game ended. Just feels so far away and feels so irrelevant now. T1 looking like the team they always have been for the last 3, 4, 5 years in terms of Baron control. And some things just never change.
Yeah, and I love that you've got Mata sitting down there with the team. I felt like the way Carrier played the early game was so Mata-esque from years previous. Even when he was on T1 in 2019, it was Mata's classic play of, oh, we're losing around the map. Okay, just deal with it, Teddy. I'm just going to go and kill everyone. And he did do that many, many times. Carrier took the bull by the horns. I think at the moment, definitely a front runner for me as far as the POM is concerned. This guy's Alistar is so good. It's obscene. I imagine the narrative vote is towards Gumayusi for now, but we'll have to see what happens throughout the rest of this series to see who's going to be able to lock that one down.
I mean, DRX kept it interesting. That's for sure. I'm looking forward to the rest of this best of 3 and what it's got to offer.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully DRX can look a little bit better moving into game number 2. But of course, a loss on blue side is a little bit of a worry. They'll probably be able to hold on to that one. We'll see whether it's going to work out for them in the second match. Time for us to take a break. When we get back, it's going to be the space in game 2. We'll see you there.
W에 럼블 공갈 생각해봐.
그렇게 총알 없다.
알겠다.
야, 믿었다. 봐도 돼. 그렇게 딜 못해.
좋아.
코르키 너플. 내가 갈게. 비벼.
코르키.
너플.
나이스.
맵이 없어. 맵이 없어. 왔어.
어어어.
끝내자.
DRX remaining on the blue side, so correct colors for both of these teams. DRX, of course, very blue. T1, very red. Red side, blue side, you love to see it. But
I'm glad
what we'd like to see is a game 3. Yeah, thanks, Will. I needed it.
Now everyone is very clear on where we stand in terms of side selection and where the players are playing, what colors their jerseys are.
They were very confused before.
No,
okay?
I know. It
was really useful of me to do that.
It can be quite tricky, and if some colorblind watchers might actually appreciate it.
Did you know the most common colorblindness is actually red-green colorblindness?
Yeah.
Why are our traffic lights red and green, Wolf? Answer me that.
I don't have an answer for you.
I know, it's just silly, isn't it?
But they also have shapes, so it's okay in positions.
They do have positions, so just make sure you tell them that left and right, or up and down, depending on which country you're in. Okay, Kalista going to be the final ban here, as once again, it is going to be the Poppy, Varus, and Kalista, this time in a slightly different order. Same thing to be said for the first couple of bans on the side of T1, but it's Ezreal following up.
Vi is up, so we could see a first pick Vi here for Sponge. That empowers Yukal with a lot of different champions where he could potentially carry. But I'm seeing a Rich nod, and last time Rich nodded at Sponge, it was a Sponge first pick. But I'm not 100% sure. It feels like an angle where you certainly could just lock the Vi, and that is what they will do.
Do you know, there's something that's really difficult that's been written in chat. This guy says, Atlas, if you read this, say yippee when Teemo is locked in, but Teemo's probably not going to get locked in, so how would he then know that I read his message?
He's just banning you from saying yippee, now you can't say it.
Oh, no. Oh, wait, but I said it when I read out the message. Oh, no, it's doomed. Okay, Ambessa and Misfortune. Pretty good 1-2 punch after the Vi was locked in. I'm pretty frightened, although...
There's no Rel.
The nameplate does say Doran instead of Zeus, so, Doran Ambessa... This is where he's going to have to show that he can play more of that carry style, and hasn't really been the way T1 has looked, although he did have a decent Rumble game, I guess.
I want to see what Yukal wants to play with his Vi more than anything else. Is he just going to play Ahri here, which is the most boring but standard and quite strong pick, as they will take the Aatrox here into the Ambessa, which has been a pretty good matchup for the Aatrox. Aatrox is in a pretty good spot right now. We've even seen this champ blinded a few times this year, but it's a question of, what Yukal is playing, because he is, again, the most consistent player here, and I know it's crazy, especially when you look at the breakdown we have on the space.
Oh, Vi Ahri?
It is going to be the Ahri, so it's another champ where you can proc electrocute, put some pressure on Faker, you got some jungle attention, maybe you can take over the game. Quite strong into Misfortune as well, because he's very immobile.
I'm just going to write Talia in here. Oh, but it's Silas instead. Never mind. That is fighting fire with fire. I was really expecting the Talia to come in. It felt like it was already so powerful into the amount of dashing that has been set up. But a lot of people do like to pick Ahri into the Talia anyway, because she can get out of the way of the threaded volley relatively well.
Kai'Sa ban was super obvious because it's Teddy, first of all, but perhaps arguably more importantly, they already have so much good dive set up here with the Ahri and Vi.
And Guma will never want to play Kai'Sa.
No, not in most cases. I mentioned it earlier, not a pick that he's known for, often criticized for on the rare occasion he plays it. But this final ban, we're probably just going to be another 80 carry, likely a safe one. Yep, so you took away the Ezreal, safe, took away the Kai'Sa that works well with the dive, and then you took away the Xayah, because they have Ambessa, they have Silas, so they have their own version of dive, even though DRX have the Vi, the Ahri, they also have their really strong engage tools and great follow-up with the Misfortune. I'm maybe a Maokai here?
Oh, it's a Sivir angle for Teddy. It's 100% the Sivir angle. Nocturne going to be taken away from Owner.
That's interesting to see the Nocturne ban there. I mean, it's a Owner classic, but they're not running the Orianna. And it's a lot of magic damage. You could argue with the Silas in the mid lane, but I do feel like Maokai works really well at keeping DRX's composition at bay and works well with Misfortune.
Nidalee. Is it just Nidalee time? Does Owner just... I mean, he's having a giggle. It might just be his... Never mind.
Oh, way more fun.
It's the Lee Sin.
Way more fun.
And we had the Guma Classic in the Jhin, and now we've got the Owner Classic in the Lee Sin. Sponge does get to answer this with whatever... Oh, no, never mind. His Vi is already locked in. So we just need a bottom lane here from DRX. But already, I think T1 are certainly looking to scrap in this game number 2.
Yeah. Leona is available. Could be one of the better answers to this Misfortune, but doesn't feel great into everything else. Ashe Braum actually feels pretty sick here, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That's pretty strong.
And it's one of the strongest level 1s as well. Keria will end up with this Rakan, which is kind of risky, to be honest. It's tough to engage on most of these champions. Like, Ahri is very mobile. Vi is not necessarily a target you want. She can engage on you as well and lock you in place.
Not a lot of incidental damage, though, on DRX right now. Often it has to be like a skill shot lands or something like that. There's no equalizers you're going to be dancing through. So if Carrier plays it really well, he could have some pretty amazing angles.
I'll be honest with you. If you take the nameplates away, I feel like DRX has a giga draft gap here. Like, they have arrow into Vi ult, or Vi ult into arrow, into charm, into somebody is dead. They have so much single target blow up. It's so easy to play as well. And the
chase down with the Winter's Bite on top of all of that.
No, you're never getting out. You're never getting away. It is predicated a lot on individual lane performance, but we've already seen UCal can win lane. He already did in game 1. Rich is very, very much in form right now, and Aatrox is one of his old favorites, even though sometimes his performances on it in the past left us raising eyebrows. He does like to play it. I think by now he's definitely a lot more well-versed on it than he was during his debut. And I think T1 is still the stronger team. I think they're still coordinated enough to, like in game 1, probably win around some great late-game objective control and team fighting. But once again, DRX have some great tools here, and they simplified the comp, and maybe that will be enough to push them over the line this time around.
Yep. I really wanted to check in to see whether Sleeping Lady has woken up yet or not, because like you say, the draft is looking pretty good. Like, maybe it is time to just give her a little shake and say, like, perhaps this is the game that you want to watch. I know game 1 wasn't really at that from like about halfway through. This time it might be a little bit better, unless T1 just have one of these owner faker games where they just roll over the top. Let's jump onto the Rift and see whether that does indeed happen. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for the second game of our final series of the night. T1's debut series started off with a bang with a game 1 victory, and now seeing whether they can do it again up against DRX here in game number 2. DRX, though, as you can see by the champions that are listed on the left, pretty good, you could say.
Yeah, me and SK Telecom Dynasty started off with a bang as well.
So did the whole universe.
Yeah, true.
Apparently. I don't know. Have we disproven that one yet? Have we disproven that one? I don't know.
I trust the scientists, you know?
I thought that there was something that came back that said actually like the world is older than the Big Bang or something, or the universe is older than the Big Bang or something, and people got confused. But I don't think I clicked on the video. I think I just like read the title and was like, that's weird, and then moved on to video game content.
You like got concerned about your algorithm. You were
yeah.
Like, why is this here?
Oh no, I've got loads of that, man. Like often it's just cosmic stuff. Just like, you know, Brian Cox can read anything to me and I'm psyched about it.
Is Polaris or Faker a bigger star?
I think it's Faker.
I think so. Sorry, Polaris.
Yeah.
You may have guided a lot of ships, but Faker has certainly guided a lot of ships, you know what I mean?
If Faker was to blow up, would it be larger than Beetlejuice exploding, which is apparently something that is happening currently, although is it happening currently? Because maybe we're just getting the light from it now, and that means that it's actually happening in 1 billion years or something like that.
Or ago.
Yeah, this is like, maybe we shouldn't be talking about that sort of stuff. Is UCal once again really finding the angles? There's that electrocute that you were talking about, Wolf, and already trading very well.
He's got, you know, another matchup where he has some early game agency. The Ahri has the range advantage and is one of the easiest champions to proc electrocute on, especially into a melee. So he is just going to seek those advantages, and so far has gone well for him. This time not as much of a disaster for Andil at level 2 either in the bottom lane.
Well, not going to be too worried about that chain lash is UCal. So the priority that they do have is certainly working out as far as this mid lane is concerned. Mirrored jungles here as well, as we can see. Onan now moving over towards his red buff, but so is Sponge. Doran pulled back here as Rich having a pretty good time. Looks a little bit like a Skell from Xenoblade Chronicles X-Wolf in this skin. As Andil shows in the door. Not too much else going to come of it.
Oh. Yeah, no. Trying to get that bite. Not quite there.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to talk when they're doing stuff.
Well, I don't know.
I was kind of holding my breath. I'm like, wait, is something going to happen?
It looked like something might occur, but, you know, we didn't want to overdo it, so we had to just give it the pause. Ooh, see the double up doesn't hit, you know.
Ooh, okay. Faker not going to be backing right now, as Volley will pick up the cannon, so no -1s in chat. keep those out. As Andal's going in. Okay, finds the Winter's Bite onto Gumayusi as stun not coming. Teddy unable to walk up far enough. Still no real punishment here. A zone is going to move in. That's Sponge that locks that one down.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Yeah.
Quite early.
Of the Vault Breaker there from Sponge just to try and avoid some damage from the Resonating Strike. Nicely done. And
like
Foxfire is making Faker's life quite difficult, but he will be able to go back. Should be A-okay. You can see only 4 minions behind or something like that. As, oh dear, Doran in a little bit of trouble. One more, and the flashes need to be traded. Doran will survive, but this is looking dicey. Why did you walk up?
Oh my God!
Why did he
no
walk?
way.
Oh God! If there was another
if he died, I would have lost it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, actually lost it.
Thankfully, Wolf gets to stay on the desk because
I may have said bad words. He has the perfect flash to the Q3 there of Rich, and it just walks right back in. Yeah, I mean, he was trying to showcase the release diff in terms of the release date of the champions, but definitely playing a little bit close to the sun there.
yeah, oh, more cosmic vibes with the chat, with the conversation here, Wolf. You love to see it,
Yeah.
keeping it relevant. Faker is still yet to teleport back, does manage to pick up the cannon here as Andal's moving on up. That could actually just mean a plate going on over to UCal. And with one more minion here, there it goes.
You very rarely see like a pre-5-minute lane dominance plate, but every now and then,
Yeah, pretty
you're
good.
able to pick it up. UCal used his whole mana bar, isn't able to get kill pressure on Faker, but pushes him back enough to where he's going to have the free back here as well as that plate. So once again, laning so well that he's generating a pretty big gold lead. It's almost a kill's worth of gold that he's got in the advantage right now.
Yep. And we're reminded as well of the fact that, you know, this was another champion on the list of rich champions. It was Nah, Jace, and Aatrox, and Lucian when he made his debut. And it just shows that his Aatrox is still looking pretty good.
Yeah.
As fighting against Doran here, that time able to avoid the third Q. And Doran trading nicely there. So Caster Curse in full effect. Chronicler would say that they're not real, but I'm pretty sure they are. That was just proof.
I mean, I think we've had quite a few of them to showcase that it's actually a real thing.
Yep, it is.
We are looking to potentially have a big skirmish here around these grubs, as unfortunately for Faker, he has no prio here. He's sitting at full health and can steal the Ahri ult to zoom over, but looking pretty good for DRX going for the contest here. Teddy is level 4 though.
All right, Faker has stolen away an ulti here, as Yukao could be in a bit of trouble, but the charm will land. Sponge moving over, only level 5. As Ona still onto these grubs. Oh dear, okay. Still, that doesn't mean that Sponge can press an R button because he still doesn't have that one available. One grub has now been taken as Carrier looking for a grand entrance angle. The charm goes wide! That could spell the end for Yukal, but still looking for an angle. Flash out from Sponge as Guma level 5, but does have that Make It Rain to slow him down. And DRX not able to get any joy when it comes to these grubs. T1 should be able to just go back and grab the third one if they would like it.
Man, that tempo hijack from Faker was actually insanely high value. Just pushes Yukal away. They're able to get the faster group there. And it's just moments like that where you're like, sure, 200 gold down, doesn't matter. As Carrier,
he's just going in. Ona might be able to take away the blue buff, but no, early smite there. As once again, Sponge looking for an angle, but Andal just gets himself out with the flash.
Great flash from Andal, because if he doesn't flash at that exact moment, he might get Insect, which would have been a disaster. Well, not the full Insect, but a flash kicked into...
Which insect?
Probably Dragonfly.
Ah, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Splat on the windshield kind of situation.
Yeah.
But he flashed it. It's okay. He's good.
Yeah. So no insect for Andal, and that is a good thing.
Yeah. He is down his flash now, though. And no kills in the situation, but I feel like T1 played that incredibly well. Faker down on CS, down on gold, like I was saying, but makes the play to end up getting a positive trade onto Yukal that allows T1 to hold that aggro.
Oh, dear. Yukal? Sorry, Andal. Getting a ward in, and isn't actually going to get punished. I was a little bit worried there, but you could see that Yukal had roamed up from the mid lane. And Carrier thinking about trying to find an angle here. Winter's Bite coming on through. Connects onto the Rakan as they turn their attention to Gumayusi. Level 6 now picked up. Teddy with the arrow.
Well, there was an angle there for an arrow as Guma was channeling, but they don't commit. That was scary. He does have cleanse, of course, but...
yeah, getting that cooldown still would have been worth.
Yeah.
Probably wanting to look for perhaps a different
A more guaranteed
the Dragon is up and available, so maybe a fight around there could have been an option.
I mean, Andil is playing super aggressively this game. This is the kind of confidence we really didn't see from this guy on the Freaks. He's just really looking like, you know, he's ready to scrap at any moment. He's trying to extend this early game Braum opportunity super late, even after losing his flash, goes straight in on the owner, trying to cause some chaos there. Doesn't end up leading to any kills, but, you know, T1 is a very high bar that you set, so plays like this, looking good is...
Whoa, that was a pretty good arrow.
Oh,
Actually
success.
connects, nailed it onto owner. Well played.
Accurate.
Nice work, Teddy.
Just watching DRX play this well in this early game against an incredibly strong team is giving you hope that there's massive improvements that have been made.
100%, and they've been doing a lot of studying. It was something that Sponge actually said in an interview talking about the fact that they had studied a lot of what the top teams have been doing. As Rich worked out killing the 80 carry in a top lane 1v1 is a good way to do it. Pulls Gumayushi back, but he is able to survive.
It doesn't go for a flash play or anything like that, knowing that Guma also has his flash available and has that turret there. Andil, you know, in the mid lane, trying to make something happen, gets his ult hijacked. Faker just drops that one down. Nothing occurs there, really. As one of our longer first bloods.
Yeah, this one's taking a while, and things are extraordinarily even. 3 grubs went over to T1, but that is it when it comes to the objectives. Owner looking to augment that with a dragon at the same time, but now Sponge has an R button, presses it, the charm is going to be found here, and this is the Ahri-Vi combo. Not a lot Faker can do. Goes down very low, but Carrier, not enough to save him, and he's going to have to flash to safety as well. DRX, I mean, this duo doing exactly what it says on the tin.
Looking really clean, looking really good. Faker was able to, with Carrier's help, at least deny Yukal the kill.
Okay, Doran still able to offer a bit of damage back in that trade.
I don't know if Doran can quite stick this dragon just yet.
Whoa, Rich really finding a few of these combos.
There's not a lot of killing happening in this game, but there's certainly a lot of trading and aggression.
Yeah, certainly things are happening.
Yeah, I think it might be a ruinous game, you know, with all the time. No, not quite, but...
ruinous game with like a 9-minute first blood and only 1 kill here at 11 minutes.
Some of the damage done in lane and skirmishes does add up.
And it is worth more now, and that's why we are actually seeing more of the ruinous outcomes.
It's not happening, but yeah, interesting early game here as Rich will use his Q this time to clear the wave.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if Rich can actually find some value in some of these team fights as well, because he was playing a lot of melee Jace in the last game and missing a lot of Shock Blast from range. So I think now, I mean, this is just better melee Jace. You just don't have the other form, and feels pretty good.
Double Sunder Sky picked up at the same time for top and jungler.
Synergy.
Synergy indeed. Big spikes here for these champions. Rod of Ages, not necessarily a spike right now. We'll get back to you around 21 minutes in here for Yukal. But this is the new Ahri build, which is really, really oppressive, difficult to shut down. Allows the Ahri a lot more aggressive playmaking ability because she can go in so deep without any risk. Nice sidestep from Carrier.
Yep, they are able to now move up towards these grubs. I think this is a situation that Sponge will need to try and contest. Looks like 4 grubs should go over to T1 though.
Faker and Rich both have teleport. Rich has Prio, could come up here to try to affect this play.
Well, this is a little bit awkward actually, because they are now split. Owner will be able to wrap around as that grub is going to reset.
Once
Sponge
Yukal gets here, I think T1 need to evacuate. They cannot actually, I mean, they will just be chain CC. That single target blow up is absolutely real.
Yeah. So Smite going to be invested here, and it looks like DRX are just going to give up the remaining 2 grubs. T1 should be sitting on 5 moving into the rest of the game.
Yeah, I
feels
think
real good.
In terms of a team fight there, if DRX were in position to fight it, they win 100%, but T1 were just playing the map better. They were threatening plates, and DRX eventually had to say, look, they're playing too far back, we can't engage on them, and also we're losing plates, so they had to make the decision to back away.
Ooh, another Smite actually available here for Sponge, so he'll be able to grab the second one, but still 4-2. T1 going to have some Void Mites to help them out, and that's going to be feeling pretty good.
Really do like how T1 are using turrets and lane pressure to help secure these objectives, and that gives them the 4-2 split. No team fight win for either side there, but T1 didn't overcommit. They respected that single target chain CC and just got plate gold instead, and then pulled DRX back and then grabbed the second one there. Not all 3, of course, still limited to 1 smite on those, but I thought it was very carefully played.
Yeah. All right, Teddy, back to the mid lane. And Let's see whether he has a better time as we crest the mid-game here. Teddy, of course, not looking like much at all in game number 1 on the Corki. This time on the Ashe, certainly a lot more high-priority pick.
Yeah, he went for the Untals first, which is better than Triforce. Please don't build that. Somebody built that yesterday. I'm not going to name any names. But he is significantly far behind in this game in terms of CS. So you can see that gold lead reflected in Guma, who has his Bloodthirster online, which should give him a little bit more safety to this comp here for DRX. So he's feeling pretty good.
Oh, no. Nailed it.
That
Man,
looked
I was
weird.
Worried. I was really worried.
Yeah. But it's a very even game, and this time T1 doesn't have a massive scaling advantage like they did last time around. So the 600 gold lead feels just like a 600 gold lead. It's now a 500 gold lead, but
yep.
It's only a small advantage. These next few fights are really going to be where the game breaks open.
Ooh,
Sponge with a wraparound.
Oh, dear. Doran could be in a whole lot of trouble here as he's not able to ult his way out. Good sidestep there as now Carrier comes in. Vault Breaker right on top of him. Gets the quickness down, and Sponge is now the target. Infernal Chains not really doing too much as Andal. He comes down. Nice arrow just supporting the rest of the team as it sails by. Maybe there were snacks on it, and they got to pick a snack off the arrow to find some sustenance or something like that. Otherwise, it didn't do anything.
There was not a whole lot of vision for DRX on the river. I think that's part of why Sponge decided not to ult Carrier there, because he was scared about what it could mean for the upcoming fight. Is Andal?
Yeah, Andal is all the way up, but he's able to stand beside Sponge. And Faker finding some chains here, looking for the solo kill onto Yukal, but once again, it's going to be a charm landing. Meanwhile, more fighting here towards the bottom side of the map as the flash over the wall there, and another stand beside me here by Andal is going to save his life. Rich kind of hoping that he was able to get in on some of that action. It felt like a fight built for an Aatrox, but T1 just fighting around Rich instead of for him.
Andal is just... the amount of times he's almost died this series. And then gotten away with it has been quite high. He doesn't afraid of anything, Atlas.
Yeah, he's kind of him in this game.
Yeah, no, he's making me afraid every time, but keeps getting away with it. 0 deaths so far in this one. And gold lead actually swings over to T1 here after that last passage of play. And Owner is going to start this Dragon without really any teammates nearby, but they are rotating over now. Doran does have TP, so...
Oh, Yukal's backing and doesn't have teleport, so it looks like it is just going to be a give up on the dragon type scenario.
Potentially first brick here on this dive if they commit.
Yeah.
They won't though.
So it is just the dragon going down. Mountain Soul this game as well. Feels a little bit better than the Chemtex that we have been seeing so far today. But now Rift Herald going to be started up. Carrier in the area. Gumushi and Ona moving their way over. Sonic Wave going to go wide. And it was some fancy footwork, but now Faker looking to try and take this turret down, and
the turret means feats of strength for them if he actually takes it. So it's worth if they just give this up. TP going to come down to try to defend it.
Yeah, so down he goes. Faker should just be able to focus on this though, and you can see that is exactly what he wants, and there it is. Feats of strength going on over, and the charm is even going to miss. Faker, like, I feel like he has lost lane twice in a row, but is always the one that finds the most advantages.
I mean, he had a fairly skill-based matchup in Game 1. I mean, it's tough for the Azir, but it is one that you can do better than I think Faker performed on in Game 1. This is a much tougher matchup into the Ahri early. He got bullied, but Faker's the brain guy now. You know, he was the guy who solo killed Ambition.
Yeah.
Faker, look at the moves, look at the plays. He was the hands guy, but now he's just got so much experience. He's the brain guy. He's playing the map. Knows he can TP in if his team sees an angle to commit to that fight, but otherwise can just get feats of strength and turret gold by finishing it off, and that's exactly what he did.
Ooh, Owner and Carrier all diving in. There's a public execution, and Rich, in the blink of an eye, is just dead. Yeah, you saw that little head movement there, and the player cam, he's just like, well, I guess I'm dead. I don't know what I'm supposed to do there.
Yeah, the problem is there's not really a cross map. As even if they tried to commit to Faker there, he could just hijack and get away.
Well, now it's going to be a 3,000 gold lead, just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Pulling it out of some big turrets that T1 are killing with their grub lead.
Still connects.
Nice catch by Owner.
Yeah, it may have missed, in fact. As cease and desist does come on through, Owner will, in fact, cease and or desist the living thing. And Teddy's going to be able to grab himself a kill. That was almost an inner turret taken down.
That feels bad. I actually thought he was probably going to be fine, and now I feel guilty for saying he caught it.
I mean, he did kind of catch it.
Yeah. Okay, going back to this play here, it's a 3-man. Faker's very safe in the bottom lane, so there's no cross-map opportunity. Then they go for the second turret here. Owner, fortunately, dashes back with the safeguard and ends up getting caught by it. Then he's in via ult range, and the rest of the team is rotated up, so he gets left to die. And they do not get that inner turret.
Ooh, but Teddy potentially able to get the first turret here for DRX.
So that 3,000 goldie didn't quite happen. Good defense there from DRX, but it looked for a moment there like they were just going to fall over.
And actually, DRX are looking to try and pull this one back. Teddy, though, is going to take the majority of his health bar, and yeah, he's not feeling too great about it. Does get a bit of a heal, as that's a great charm from UCal, but another public execution as Teddy flashes out of the way and will be able to survive. UCal grabbing that kill, big deal, to try and get some more money onto the Ahri. As Rich not wanting the 1v1 with Faker.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what it's like to be the Faker of bots, and he sees Faker on the other side. Like,
True.
I wouldn't mess with me back then, so I'm out of here. Does just evacuate the situation, and they do finally get that turret top side. So after 2 turrets narrowly dying, DRX will actually bring the gold lead back to their side, although it is very small. The lead.
Yeah.
Still, it's been a very close game. I don't even want to say back and forth. It's been very measured on both sides.
Rich this time actually managing to find an angle here. And we'll be able to win out on at least that trade. So, yeah, like you were saying, I felt like the gold was ready to balloon, completely out of control.
And
instead, it was fine.
It was so saved by that arrow situation.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice attempt from Teddy. Unfortunately, Owner, like, he didn't know the angle. He ended up dying, but that really took a lot of the wind out of T1's sails on what could have been an incredible gold swing there. And then DRX get that top turret, take a small lead themselves. Dragon is up. This is sole point for Mountain Soul for T1. DRX absolutely need to fight over this. It's about a minute away, unfortunately, I think, for UCal's Rod of Ages to complete, but still doesn't have a second item either. Does have an Oblivion Orb, but this is not exactly the territory they really want to fight.
There's the 10.
With. Okay, he got it. Okay, so he was a little bit faster than I thought, so that's big.
Yep, got the tick over, so slight level advantage here for UCal. Good.
No second item for Teddy, but they do have a lot of control over this area. Herald dropped as well. I think T1 would be wise to consider giving this up.
Well, this turret seems to be where DRX are kind of focused for now. They do need to stop T1 from getting that soul point.
Yeah, and actually the Herald drop made me think the Dragon was spawning faster than it actually was. It didn't spawn when they dropped it, so the Herald just got denied and they didn't hold the prio. So T1's still contesting for this.
Yep, and the Dragon, we saw it just flap its way down, so you can see there the announcement as Drake has entered the game. 100 gold the difference between the two teams, but 2 Drakes makes T1's game state feel a little bit better than that of DRX right now.
Faker waiting for something here. Didn't have teleport,
Ooh,
so...
Yeah, does manage to get
Cosmic.
it. So Cosmic Drive now completed. So 2-item spike comes in, does have that ahead of UCal.
And interestingly, his Rod is later, so we'll get more value out of the level up he'll get. But unfortunately, he won't be here for this Dragon, so it looks like DRX are just simply going to take their first of the game. And with a pretty tanky, high-health Ahri build with some additional resistances, if they keep stacking these, UCal is going to love it.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pick up his Leandries now as well. So that is going to be a decent spike, with the Oblivion Orb also picked up just to avoid a bunch of the healing that they do have available, especially with Bloodthirster and
Silas,
like Owner on the Lee Sin as well. Fair bit of healing in the base kit. And the Gleaming Quill, true, from the Rakan. There are certainly some things there, so I can understand it. There's going to be Phantom Dancer done here for Teddy. Still wants to be build it like a 3rd item. Probably feels the best when you're going for a build like this.
This actually feels like, weirdly enough, Atlas, the most LCK game we've had at the LCK so far. Like everything's super slow, everything's super calculated, no huge errors on either side. Very tactical game, no massive draft gap between the two. Like I said earlier, I feel like if you take the nameplates off, feels like there is one here for DRX, but the way T1 have played this draft so far and how coordinated they are and how well they play the map, it just feels like such an even game. Like everyone has the same pieces on what is an LCK chess game here.
Oh, this may be the difference maker as Doran just dances around the minion wave. Rich will find the sweet spot, but unfortunately is losing out on the trade. Sponge just trying to stay in that fog of war as Teddy gets a shove up this mid lane. So 2 turrets to 1 is a large reason why things are still so even, with DRX having a few extra kills. Carrier taking a bunch of damage, but he's Rakan, so he is absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's why he took a bunch of damage, but because he's Rakan, it won't be lethal damage. He's getting out of there.
We have a really relevant question that was just asked in our group chat, by the way.
Yeah.
Valdez was wondering, like, because I often say about things written on tins,
Yeah.
what does it actually say on the tin? As we're going to have to hold that thought. Ona throwing Sponge out of there. Delivered underneath the turret is slightly suboptimal, and immediately Sponge just goes down. Can they get the answering kill, though, as Doran is dancing away from the fight? Charm connects onto Faker, but he is still looking for more. Chains go wide. Rich still at full health, and Faker may have overextended, but he's got another dash. The cavalry are coming down, but they're seen on the vision as the quickness dives forward, and there's the bullet time. They take down the Rakan, though. It was an awkward situation, and the turret is also going to fall. Ultimately, in the end, I think it was just completely even.
Yeah, it's just a 1-for-1 support for jungle.
And Valdez didn't even learn about what was written on the tin.
Yeah, and I don't even know what tin we were talking. We talked about the Nefiri tin earlier, but
yeah, there's a few tins that have been going around. It feels like my sort of word of the day, kind of like rap.
If I had like a $10 bill for or Manon, so to speak, basically the Korean $10 bill for every time DRX overextended for a play and it ended up backfiring. I'd be able to buy a lot of tins, Atlas. But luckily, this time it's not just a big overextension with no follow-up because UCal is super mobile, is able to get his way out of here, and the rest of DRX do show up here to help push this turret down. Rich takes a very long time with that Q there to actually kill the turret, which made me very nervous. But he does end up taking down Carrier with his squad there. Well, he didn't get the kill, but anyway, they end up taking Carrier down anyway, so it ends up being a trade. I was very worried that DRX were going to hyper overextend and give multiple kills to T1. They do end up pulling it off, grabbing that turret. The game is still even. They're looking for another turret here to make it basically dead even in terms of gold.
Yeah, slight advantage, in fact, here for DRX. And by that, it's like 300 gold.
Yeah, it's even.
Yeah, it's nothing. So Baron has just spawned. It is another case where there's Arakan and Baron here towards the top side of the map. And last time the game was even, and then we had that situation where the Baron and Arakan immediately went down, and then T1 had a 10,000 gold lead out of nowhere, and the game was over.
This time, T1 do not have Baron control. They do not have Arakan control. They don't have full vision in the river. It's, in fact, DRX who have those advantages.
Ooh, Doran finding the opportunity where Rich doesn't have all of his buttons, and then nothing really happens.
How many dashes you got, Aatrox?
Haha. Well, 2, I guess.
Yeah, that was a lot back then. Yeah, you know, dash around, put up a shield, do all that good stuff. Doran is doing it. I like DRX's chances in this game because if they can maintain vision control over these objectives and T1 have to fight their way through, there's just so many ways that go wrong. It goes wrong with the, you know, the arrow, et cetera, we've been talking about all game long with the single target kill potential that DRX have. They're going to clear this vision once again. T1, 20 seconds time until they can fight for soul point here on this dragon. I don't think DRX are willing to trade that for the Baron right now.
But this time, it's just soul point, right? As Andal gives them the door, and engaging on this Braum is just not really going to be a possibility. That's what it says on the tin, by the way. It says, don't engage onto Braum.
Yeah, it's true.
And the other side of the tin says, Braum is not engage as well. It's a multifaceted tin, but it's mainly about Braum.
Yeah, the tin basically is the Surgeon General's warning in this case.
Yeah.
Well, Dragon is spawned. T1 do not have Prio in mid. And DRX, I mean, this is their fight to lose.
Sponge just aggressively picking up the banana brush control.
Teddy needs to be very careful with his positioning. There's a lot of tools that T1 can use to get on top of him. The Ambessa, the Silas. It's a lot of threats. But they have so much vision control, it's really tough for T1 to fight into this.
Yeah, so much of this vision has already been taken away here as they can just wait out the Sonic Wave.
Look at how careful Teddy is positioning. He's like, I'm way back.
Yeah, and he needs to stay away from Faker because a hijacked arrow could be a real big deal.
Exactly.
For T1 as Carrier on that flank angle, and he gets into the pit. Now it's an opportunity to kick out onto Andal through Rich here, but it is going to be Faker that locks down the Dragon. That's kind of crazy. Sponge goes in, but Rich is in amongst it as well. The bullet time interrupted pretty quickly, but DRX are just kind of melting. Finally, they find some angles, and Rich getting the huge heals. as he looks to exit. It was an even fight until then. Faker dives forward, looks for Rich, but he doesn't get it. The Infernal Chains, and it's Yucal that locks down the kill. Orbit Deception coming on through here, but there's a right click, and Gumayusi's able to take down the Ahri. Only Rich staying alive here.
9,000 damage for Gumayusi in the fight, positioning incredibly well and layering in the damage from start to finish. Teddy, unfortunately, with how he positioned so safely early, was not able to do anywhere near as much, as well as Doran being on top of him towards the latter half of the fight. Faker securing the Dragon is the huge problem here, but look at Doran on top of Teddy. He has to flash away. Teddy can do nothing in this fight. Meanwhile, Gumayusi sitting at full health with his Bloodthirster, just queuing on cooldown and just tapping people out of this fight. Does an insane amount of damage, flashes the wall to follow through here as well. Phenomenal return here to the LCK for Gumayusi, and unfortunately Teddy was just shut down by Doran. Couldn't do much, even though Rich had some phenomenal knockups there and was healing like crazy. What a fight.
That was sick.
And still, we walk away with a 300 gold lead for T1.
Yeah.
If they got the Dragon, if DRX got the Dragon, it'd be 2 dragons apiece, you know?
And
crazy.
It's not the kind of blowout that we saw last time, and that's the great thing about this, because now we still get to see another fight. Well, something might happen.
It might be about to be like that, because similarly to last game, T1 have full vision control here, and if DRX just trickle through, just like they did last game, it will be the exact same thing that happened in game 1.
They are looking to do it. Single ward.
Yeah, it's exact same situation as game 1.
All right, well, the arrow is going to connect onto Doran. This Otacon is extraordinarily low as Yucal looking to make his way in. The public execution is fantastic as Faker is going to turn up as well. He picks up an arrow. Down goes Carrier to start this one off, but Faker's gone golden. He's bought so much time, and Rich just cannot do enough. He's now looking to get onto Doran in that backline, but he's just a distraction. As now Rich flapping after them, looking for a bit of an angle here, as it's only Guma and Ona that are left alive, and the Otacon, thankfully for DRX fans, doesn't fall amongst all of that.
Huge heroic plays here across the board for DRX, and even though Teddy dies, both Rich and Yucal play the fight so well that T1 end up trading evenly, but it's not enough. Because of that, they can't actually continue to take these objectives. Remember, the Otacon is shredding some of these resistances as well, so it's really tough for Guma to just walk forward, so he's actually out of the fight for a lot of this early part. Doran goes in super deep, and unfortunately for him, isolates himself. It's a great stasis here from Faker, and yes, they take out Teddy super early, so he's not going to offer much damage, but because Doran is split off from the rest, they can't actually continue to chase or follow up, so it ends up being a pretty even trade, slight trade up for DRX, and they actually remain about 300, 400 gold in the lead. They deny the objectives, and unlike last time, they're actually able to show up to the objective as all 5 and get there before it's too late and actually end up securing the fight itself.
Yeah, really nicely done. I swear, like, Gumayusi should be playing lethality. Because the angles on these ultimates have been fantastic. A little bit better than that arrow from Teddy that did go a little bit wide. But yeah, I mean look, that bullet time just didn't feel like it did quite enough as Doran once again caught out of position. The Infernal Chains pulls him back, but he uses the ulti, and Sponge is actually the one that falls down. This time, Kerry is able to keep himself alive, and Rich is trying to be the hero, but it's not enough. He's CC'd and put down, and now T1 will find themselves that advantage they've been looking for.
And we had the fight, you know, we jumped into it a little bit late. I'd love to see exactly how the setup worked and how DRX thought they were going to win that exchange or the engage there, but put themselves in such a risky spot, and Teddy is just not able to actually front to back with his team when the front line goes in that deep and just kind of ends up popping. So it's Rich who thinks he's caught Doran here. Sponge actually ults onto the Ambessa, and then Carrier's follow-up here is so phenomenal. They end up getting the charm onto Sponge. He dies first. Carrier then gets a knock-up onto Rich to keep him out of the fight. Look at Teddy. Throws a volley in, and he's like, I'm sorry, that's all I got. You guys were way too far away. You were way too split. I can't offer anything here. And that's that. That's Otacon. That's Baron.
We've seen this before.
We just recently did, didn't we?
Yeah, and so now it's 3.5k, the gold lead instead of 300. It's not quite the explosion that we saw in the last game, but that is before all these turrets have fallen down. And
yeah,
you best believe a lot of these turrets are going to be falling down.
It could very well be very soon.
Yeah.
So we're on the way to 2 GAs for Doran and Owner.
Okay. They're looking to try and lock down Faker here as Owner is going to stop Andal from following up. And Chains are going to connect. Faker going in one more time as World Enders happening across the board. But with a Mountain Soul available, I think Faker is definitely just a distraction at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, DRX are playing like they're the ones who have the withdrawals.
Oh, good dash to get out of the way of the arrow. And in the meantime, it is going to be Mountain Soul. Faker will be taken, or at least withdrawn. And now they're going in. Okay, Carrier is going to deliver Sponge to the rest of the team. And I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I think Sponge was reminded about how his ultimate works by Carrier there in that moment.
Yeah, and also reminded that the rest of his team was off killing Faker as Yucal going to be dashing away from Ona here.
You mean withdrawing Faker?
Yes, there we go. They were withdrawing Faker. Doran is going to try and ult, but does not quite manage to do so. Gumayushi just going to get them out of there, as Ona is continuing to chase Yucal as much as he possibly can, while the rest of his team are looking to win the game. Faker has popped back up again, and he is just going to teleport to this mid lane. Ultimate from Andal not going to do too much, as Faker's going to land that arrow. That is no worries at all. Going golden as the rest of these Nexus turrets fall down, and T1, I mean, it was kept even for quite some time, but they dispatch of the Nexus immediately after finding just one fight that worked in their favor.
Just one. That's all you need. I do think that, you know, the statement, it was close until it wasn't, it could not have been more true than what we just watched in that second game. I think DRX playing a phenomenal series, really overperforming what our expectations were against T1. Guma's back, looked pretty clean in both games. He had the perfect KDA for most of game one, if not the whole game one, and then in game two, popped off in team fights. It wasn't just big ultimates, it was just his positioning, his damage, his laning. He just did it all. And he looks like he's used his time off incredibly well. You give T1 just one angle, just one in, and the game is theirs. You know, you have to be so careful, so safe against this team, or they will just thrash you.
Yeah. And Ona actually having a day out here today. His Zin's out, absolutely ridiculous. His Lee Sin, always a joy to watch. And when the supporting cast is so incredibly good, it just means that Gumayushi has that bit of extra space. There he is.
That's what he's been waiting to do for a long time. And
He's been rehearsing that one in the mirror for quite some time.
I think the fans have been waiting for it for a while, too.
Carrier's adjusting his hair.
I feel like this is the kind of game you want to see from T1 on the first day back, you know? Sure, both games were not perfect. There were small mistakes made, but I personally think it was DRX playing well more than it was T1 messing up. And sure, Faker's early laning phase, you might say it's suspect, but I also would say, look at Yucal's form throughout 2025. This is one of our best mid laners, and he had favorable matchups to push and get advantages, and then Faker still popped off and did way more when it came to what happened later on in the game. But for both teams, I think you walk out happy. You know what I mean? Like, if you're DRX, you're like, well, I think this is about as good as it could have gotten. Yes, you could have closed these games out. You could have won. But I think you're happy with, A, the advantages you got early, and B, what you can learn from what went wrong in the later half. And it's a long season. It's a long year. And if you're one of our teams that people are expecting 7th, 8th, maybe 9th, you know, maybe you're readjusting those expectations after this series.
And there were certainly some of these big moments for players like Yucal and Rich throughout this series. This play here from Rich on his Aatrox was starting to look like one of those hero moments. But in the end, you know, it was T1 that were able to come out on top, although just barely in this particular fight. I still think that there is a lot, like you say, for DRX to hang their hats on. But we also have to throw in the caveat, right? Which is, this is T1 against DRX, a team that was about 8th or, you know, 7th or 8th as far as power rankings are concerned. I think we're looking forward to seeing what T1 can do as they move further into the tournament, see whether once again they can be considered one of the top dogs, because we were talking about T1 like they could potentially be the strongest team in the LCK, even when we were just in the play-ins of the LCK Cup. That was only about a month and a half ago.
Yeah. Isn't it wild how just a bit of change of scenery and a bit of a off-season can make players like Andal and Rich suddenly like 4 times better than they were just months ago? I feel like I'm watching, I see the names over their heads. And it's hard to believe that these are the same players that we were heavily criticizing for some of their indecisive moves or some of their big errors not that long ago. And the improvement is massive. And who knows how much more they can improve.
Yeah, Faker now just going to find Teddy here. Good Captain Jack on the cleanse, but Outside of that, I mean, this was the circling of the drain of DRX. I think the biggest sort of question mark here and criticism is probably on Teddy for DRX this game. But ultimately, I mean, Rich doing a whole lot of work, Doran as well, being able to at least stay up there as far as those numbers. And Faker, after a difficult laning phase, still putting up numbers like that is very, very impressive. Gumayusi needs no introduction and getting more than double the damage of his lane opponent in this particular game. And when the game was up until 30 minutes, completely even, that is very impressive.
I gotta say, and this is gonna sound crazy, considering some of the big name matchups we've had so far, up until what is now the final game on Friday. Like, I feel like this was my favorite series of the season so far. Like, I think it had a little bit of everything, had some comebacks, had both teams playing well. I think I walk away from this one feeling like this was the one I enjoyed the most. And Carrier picks up POM.
There we go.
I voted for him, of course.
I mean, his Alistar was so incredibly good that we mentioned it already. It kind of has to be a pretty pop-off performance to get him out of pole position. And looking absolutely fantastic. The Alistar, the Marta-esque Alistar play, so good. And his engage is relentless on both of these picks. It's really good to see him back.
I'm trying to put my POM comment in, and it's not going well.
What is it going to be? If you...
I'm just saying, watch out, Carrier's coming for you.
It's Carrier, that's what...
Watch out, he's coming for you, he's coming for you. Look around, he's going to engage on you. He's going to engage on you. I don't know.
All right.
I always forget about Palm comment, and then everyone's like, Wolf. I'm like, oh! I made ChatGPT write it for me yesterday.
I think you have a little bit of extra time, though. Like, during the interview, I think you can still think about it. And so let's watch the interview now. Maybe you can rethink it.
Sure.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POM interview translation, joined by Carrier on the side of T1. This is your first POM interview, and you are the first LCK support for this Player of the Match interview. How do you feel? This is our first match of this regular season, and I'm really happy. You know, I was back in the green room looking at the replays, and they told me that I have to rush on the stage, telling me that I had a POM. So I rushed and ran over here. And I think there's a lot of mistakes that I have to go back and review and have feedback on after. And in the winning ceremony, it seemed like you were petting your bangs. So what was the meaning behind it? No, in the makeup room, I had put my bangs down, and I feel like my bangs have actually... It looks short, but I'm trying to grow it out right now. So I think that's why I focused my ceremony around my bangs. What have you mainly focused on preparing for this season? No, with the main patch taking place during the season, there's actually not that big of changes. I think we're just trying to maintain our form because we were actually quite solid in the LCK Cup. And DRX mentioned that they focused their feedback around dominant teams, especially T1's jungle and support pathing. So did you find any moment dicey at all? You know, we have practiced against DRX, and we played against them on stage as well, and it seems like they actually do like to play with an aggressive style. And just because of how aggressive they were, actually, that was pretty threatening. It came off pretty threatening to us. And in Game 1, you dominated at the Rift with Alistar. You gave Alistar the first LCK win. Why do you think Alistar wasn't able to take a win up until this point? No, Alistar is a really good pick right now. I think for today's case, I believe that I was just lucky. That's probably why Alistar got his first win. And in Game 2, there wasn't much action until 20 minutes. Both teams played very carefully, so was this intended? For Game 2, I think just based on our comp, there wasn't really much that we could do to force things.
안 진다 마인드가 있어가지고 그렇게 좀.
So I think we had the mindset that as long as we're able to play out until the late game, that we will be able to win. So I think that's just what we had kept in mind and played it out. And your next opponent is Gen G, and they showed a good performance during their opening match. So what is your resolution?
팀이라 생각하고 예전부터도 지금도.
Gen G is a very good team. They play very well.
리그에서는 이제 연패를 못 끊었기 때문에.
And so far, we weren't able to break the losing streak until against them. So I hope that this is our chance to break it this time around. And that's the end of the interview with Keria, and back to the space. Thank you.